Vietnam to achieve strong economic growth according to World Bank's report. What's at stake with Trans-Pacific Partnership for Vietnam? Hello, thank you for tuning into this edition of Bizline, brought to you by Bizline International. You're with me, Linh Hương. As usual, we'll start with what have made headlines for the past week. Trade ministers from 12 Pacific Rim countries reached an agreement in principle after a marathon 5-day series of negotiations in Atlanta, United States on Monday. 12 members settled on 3 major issues which had blocked the talks. They were the removal of tariffs for car parts imported into the United States and Canada. The United States will now be compelled to open its doors for dairy products from New Zealand, and the length of time patterns for new biopharmaceutical products. Trần Quốc Khánh, Deputy Minister of Trade and Industry, led the Vietnamese delegation to the meeting. The TPP represents about 40% of global gross domestic product and a population of 800 million people. And that is also the topic of our crosstalk in just a few minutes. Stay tuned for that. Moving on with other news, Vietnam, along with the Philippines, is said to have the most promising conditions for economic growth in the ASEAN region, according to the World Bank's latest report. The economy is said to be boosted by 2 driving forces, exports and domestic consumption. The worldwide decrease in fuel prices is benefiting the country, while the government's efforts to reduce its debt is improving the fiscal deficit. Despite the forecasted trade deficit, strong remittance inflow should ensure the balance of payment. The World Bank also suggests Vietnam quickly revise its regulations in order to attract more foreign investors. This analysis was announced in the bank's 2015 East Asia Pacific Economic Update released on October 5th. The dollar has devalued by 45 to 60 Vietnamese dongs in commercial banks following the State Bank's decision to tighten the lending and purchase of foreign currencies. This is recorded as the biggest devaluation of the US dollars since mid-August. In major banks including Vietcombank, Vietinbank and BIDV, the bidding and selling prices posted on Wednesday were 22,395 Vietnamese dong and 22,455 Vietnamese dong per US dollar, respectively, decreasing by 10 to 20 Vietnamese dong compared with Tuesday's prices. On October 5th, the State Bank of Vietnam stipulated that only businesses with a valid record of their transactions will be allowed to buy US dollar just 2 days before their payment deadlines. Prime Minister Nguyễn Tấn Dũng has approved the plan to equitize Vietnam Airlines. According to the equitization plan, Vietnam Airlines will issue more shares to increase its registered capital. Its registered capital stands at more than 22 trillion Vietnamese dong. In the first phase, the initial public offering will include 2.3 billion shares, with the government set to retain 75%, strategic investors 20%, while the remaining 5% will be sold to the public. The IPO will be implemented in Ho Chi Minh Stock Exchange. 200 businesses from 9 different countries and territories gathered in the southern city of Cần Thơ on October 7th for the Viet Build Real Estate Construction Materials and Interior Decoration Expo. Now in its 14th year, the annual event hosted a huge range of services, products and new technologies, as well as industry-related conferences and seminars. This event offered a good opportunity for domestic and foreign businesses to meet, exchange, and introduce their businesses in the Mekong Delta region. The exhibition runs until October 11th. Those are several highlights in the economic scene from the past week. Up next, we'll talk about the opportunities and challenges that Trans-Pacific or TPP will bring to Vietnam in our crosstalk. After 5 years of negotiation, trade ministers of 12 Trans-Pacific Partnership or TPP member states, including Vietnam, have reached the final consensus on the world's largest free trade agreement. They concluded their negotiation on October 5th. The TPP represents about 40% of the global gross domestic product and a population of 800 million people. Vietnam is expected to get the biggest proportionate boost as its booming garment and footwear industries are poised to benefit from the elimination of tariffs in the United States and other major importing nations. However, the benefits of the TPP for Vietnam are not without challenges. It is our honor to have in our studio today Mr. Ngô Chung Khanh, Deputy Director General of the Multilateral Trade Policy Department under the Ministry of Industry and Trade. He is also a member of the Vietnam's TPP negotiation team. He is here to help us get to know more about TPP negotiations as well as Vietnam's potential opportunities and challenges from TPP. Thank you very much for joining our program today.
Thank you. It's my pleasure.
And to begin with, let's take a look at the following report.
We, the trade ministers of Australia, Brunei Darussalam, Canada, Chile, Japan, Malaysia, Mexico, New Zealand, Peru, Singapore, the United States, and Vietnam are pleased to announce that we have successfully concluded the Trans-Pacific Partnership negotiations.
Representatives from Vietnam and 11 other Pacific nations concluded TPP negotiations in the city of Atlanta, Georgia, USA. On the White House website, U.S. President Barack Obama said that TPP would open more markets for U.S. products and that he would work with legislators in Congress to push for the ratification of the new FTA. At a press conference held in Atlanta after the talks, Australian Trade and Investment Minister Andrew Robb said that the TPP would help shape the future for more agreements to come in the 21st century. Meanwhile, Japanese Minister of Economy Akira Amari said that the TPP would contribute to the establishment of an economic union for members to trade freely with one another in various fields. In an interview on the same day, Minister of Industry and Trade Vũ Huy Hoàng explained what would happen next.
Trước hết đó là việc rà soát lại về mặt pháp lý, câu chữ, lời văn xem nó có phù hợp với quy định ở trong nước hay không. Do cái tính chất quan trọng của hiệp định lần này, cho nên theo chỉ đạo của Trung ương, Bộ Công Thương cùng với đoàn đàm phán của Chính phủ sẽ báo cáo với Thủ tướng Chính phủ để Chính phủ báo cáo với Ban chấp hành Trung ương Đảng.
The TPP is the 11th free trade agreement Vietnam has joined and also the most important one. In addition to Vietnam, the trade pact includes Australia, Brunei, Canada, Chile, Japan, Malaysia, Mexico, New Zealand, Peru, Singapore, and the US.
As of the very beginning of October, TPP negotiators had not cleared the final hurdles, particularly including issues related to automobiles, biopharmaceuticals, and dairy products. So what motivated TPP negotiators to reach the final consensus on the negotiation on October 5th?
Well, I think there are two main reasons. The first one is the determination of TPP leaders to conclude the agreement. As you may know that after Maui ministerial meeting, minister failed to announce the conclusion of the negotiation. So TPP countries understand that a ministerial meeting in Atlanta is very vital for concluding the agreement this year before the U.S. enters into the election season, which may delay the negotiation. The second reason is the flexibility shown by all TPP negotiators during the course of negotiation. This is very important factor because thanks to the flexibility they shown on the negotiating table, especially on the related issues to the negotiations such as biologic, dairy, and also rule of origin for automobile. TPP countries have a momentum to conclude all the outstanding issues.
Mm-hmm. Could you tell us the contributions of Vietnamese delegation to the TPP negotiation process from the beginning to the end?
Well, I would say that Vietnam is an active, responsible, and cooperative partner in TPP negotiation. All TPP countries share the same opinion that Vietnam is a good contributor to TPP negotiation. We not only try to protect our national interest in an appropriate manner, but also made useful contribution to negotiation. So the fact that Vietnam concluded negotiation with certain countries, especially with the United States, created momentum for other TPP countries to make further progress with the United States and other countries, which bring negotiation to close.
Mm-hmm. With the conclusion of the TPP negotiation process, Vietnam has got involved with 11 free trade agreements or FTAs. Compared to other 10 FTAs, how is TPP different?
The biggest difference, I think, is that TPP is the most complicated FTA that Vietnam has ever negotiated. TPP covers a number of issues, non-traditional issues such as state-owned enterprises, environment, government procurement, and labor, which are not the issues of all the FTAs that we have ever signed so far.
When do the TPP member states expect the trade deal to be signed, and from now until that time, what will be done in each member state?
TPP countries expect to have the deal signed early next year, and from now on, the TPP countries will have to wrap up the technical works, consolidating all the schedules, finalizing the text, and then they would make domestic procedures in order for them to get mandate to sign the deal.
Shares climbed on Vietnam's 2 stock exchanges as export prospects looked good with the conclusion of TPP negotiations. Blue chips advanced across the board. Meanwhile, export companies whose stocks were forecast to benefit most from the TPP were the biggest gainers of the week. Garment companies and seafood exporters all climbed between 5 and 7%.
Những cái ngành mà thuộc về lĩnh vực dịch vụ là tăng rất mạnh, ví dụ như ngành tài chính ngân hàng, bảo hiểm tăng rất là mạnh, chứng khoán cũng tăng mạnh. Những cái ngành liên quan đến thủy sản và dệt may tăng khá mạnh, tăng trên 5%.
The TPP will create a trade diversion within the ASEAN bloc. Once the deal takes effect, foreign investors, particularly Japanese and American ones, are more likely to shift their investments from non-TPP countries such as Indonesia, Thailand, and the Philippines to TPP members, including Vietnam.
Who does Vietnam compete for in export markets? Most of those countries are not TPP members, so it competes with Thailand, Indonesia, Philippines, and China, particularly because so much of Vietnam's exports are through foreign firms investing in Vietnam as part of regional value chains. So the TPP will make Vietnam a much more attractive location for those foreign firms to invest in.
When the TPP agreement comes into effect, the US, Japan, and Canada will offer a 0% import tax. This will boost Vietnam's export activities, especially in key sectors like textiles, footwear, and seafood.
Vietnam's U.S. exports are currently taxed at an average most favored nation rate of 17 to 18%. The agreement will reduce these taxes to zero. The TPP's rule of origin will also promote investment in Vietnamese material production, especially in fabrics, dyes, and weaving. Provided the TPP is soon implemented, exports to the U.S. are likely to reach $20 billion by 2017 before soaring to more than $50 billion by 2025.
Domestic transport and logistics service providers will also benefit as export expansion will raise the demand for transport, supply, and warehousing services.
Giải quyết khiếu kiện từ trước cho nên mình không kinh nghiệm. Công ty Logistics Việt Nam có thêm nhiều công ăn việc làm hơn, có nhiều lượng hàng để xuất nhập khẩu hơn và cho phép là nhờ có cái lượng hàng tăng lên thì giá thành vận tải sẽ giảm xuống hơn. Đó là cái điều tốt cả cho doanh nghiệp chúng tôi, tốt cả cho những công ty xuất nhập khẩu của Việt Nam.
The TPP has also been deemed a driving force behind economic reform and the strengthening competitiveness of businesses.
The TPP will have a transformative effect on Vietnam's business environment, will enable the private sector greater access into key markets, will stimulate competition, will attract additional foreign investment, and will have built key supply chain infrastructure, thus creating significant opportunities for Vietnamese businesses and jobs and higher incomes for Vietnamese workers. Vietnam has a fairly low income base among a dozen countries joining the TPP. As the participating countries, including large economies such as the United States, Australia, and Japan, account for 40% of global GDP, Vietnam will be able to tap into the potential of a huge market to be formed by the Trade Accords member states. Vietnam's GDP growth is expected to increase by at least 8 to 10% until 2030, owing to the TPP.
According to the Ministry of Industry and Trade, when the TPP takes effect, Vietnam expects to post double-digit figures in export growth while the GDP remains steady.
Why was Vietnam, a middle-income country, invited to participate in the TPP?
After WTO accession, Vietnam has proved to be a responsible member of the WTO. We have implemented WTO commitment in good faith, which was appreciated by WTO members. We are now playing an increasingly important role in the region, promising to be a very important partner in the future. The fact that Vietnam joins TPP can have a very important meaning because Vietnam is a developing country with low level. So when Vietnam joins TPP, then all developing countries can be more confident to join TPP, and this factor will make TPP agreement more attractive.
Mm-hmm. What are the benefits that Vietnam's economy will gain once the TPP takes effect?
There are many benefits, I would say. According to independent economists, Vietnam's GDP can gain as much as 24 billion US dollar by 2020, nearly 34 billion US dollar by 2025, and exports can gain as much as 60 billion US dollar by 2035. We do hope that with the TPP agreement, we can attract more investment in Vietnam, especially in the textile and apparel industry, and we add more value added to this industry. One more thing, Vietnam can have a chance to be a part of global supply chain. And the last thing I would like to say is that TPP can help us balance trade relations with trading partners. Currently, we are so much dependent on trade with Asian countries, and we have huge trade deficit with a number of countries.
Vietnam has yet to have significant bilateral trade with several TPP members such as Peru and Mexico. How will TPP facilitate and bolster trade relations between Vietnam and these partners?
I believe that there will be more business activities between Vietnam and these countries. With tariff reduction or even tariff elimination, we can export more to them, and they also can export more to us. TPP can, promote investment activities in both countries. Currently, we have a number of enterprises doing business in this country. I can give you an example of Viettel. Viettel is now running a telecom joint venture in Peru, and I believe that with TPP agreement coming into force, the operation of this company can be further promoted in the future.
TPP defines roadmaps for tariff exemptions on import items from other TPP member countries into Vietnam. Will this cut in tariff revenues become a concern to Vietnam's state revenues?
I would say that the importance of tariff revenue in the national budget is not as high as we usually think. The proportion of tariff revenue in the national budget has decreased over the years. In addition, tariff reduction in TPP will not be made one day at the date of entering the first agreement. It will be made with phasing periods, which we expect will not bring about sudden or substantial impact to the economy and the budget as well. Furthermore, we can get more money from other kind of sources thanks to booming business activities as a result of TPP commitment. So we should look at this picture from both sides of a coin. I would like to give you an example that after the WTO accession and also the signing FTA with trading partners, tariff reduction did not have negative impact on national budget at all. The total revenue has still increased since the year 2006.
The livestock sector, and particularly the dairy sector of several countries, will see the effects of the TPP agreement. But since legal procedures may take up to 2 years, the Vietnamese livestock sector may still stand a chance if it can accelerate its restructuring process.
Hiện nay thì chưa có những thương hiệu mạnh trong lĩnh vực chăn nuôi để chúng ta mang cái thương hiệu đó để ngay cả trong nước và ra quốc tế. Và vấn đề thứ ba nữa là cái khả năng tiếp cận và ứng phó thị trường và nhất là tới TPP của hầu hết các cái doanh nghiệp chăn nuôi, trang trại chăn nuôi cũng như người chăn nuôi thì còn chưa có kinh nghiệm.
For much the same reason, there is a concern that small and medium-sized enterprises will struggle in the competitive environment the TPP will soon create.
Despite the large orders, we are concerned that domestic enterprises lack the ability and potential to benefit. Businesses will need to work together to survive and develop. If not, small footwear businesses will not benefit from Vietnam joining the TPP.
It will also be difficult for Vietnamese textile firms to see results from the TPP. To enjoy the zero tariff the TPP promised, Vietnamese textile products must use raw material from countries that have signed the agreement. According to the Vietnam Textile and Apparel Association, 70% of raw materials are imported from China, who is not a member of the TPP.
Cũng không phải 1-2 năm, trong vòng 1-2 năm mà chúng ta đã có thể cải thiện được cơ bản về cái nguồn cung. Các nhà đầu tư nước ngoài cũng như các nhà đầu tư trong nước dù có nhanh thì cũng phải mất vài năm nữa thì mới bắt đầu là có được những cái nhà máy cung ứng ra những cái nguồn vải mà thế mạnh cho cái xuất khẩu vào thị trường EU cũng như là thị trường TPP.
TPP is a trade agreement with high standards, being among the least developed economies among TPP member countries with weaker competitive capacity. Will Vietnam be at a less advantageous position?
I think competition will come, but there should not be any panic because TPP countries' economy complement rather than compete with Vietnam's economy. A number of industries can face more challenges, such as husbandry, due to weak competitiveness. But I believe that with open-minded and innovative mindset, which we have seen recently through examples of such big business groups in Vietnam like Vingroup, Hoàng Anh Gia Lai, TH Mill, Vinamilk. I believe that we can have ground to compete with foreign-made products. In addition, during the course of negotiation, we have negotiated with TPP countries, and we got a deal with them on transitional period to implement hard obligations. So we have enough time to make necessary preparations before this deadline comes.
Besides opportunities, TPP will bring a lot of challenges to Vietnam's economy. Could you point out some challenges regarding Vietnam exports to TPP member countries?
There are a number of challenges coming from higher technical standards, higher sanitary and phytosanitary standards adopted by TPP countries to protect their domestic industries. In addition, we can also expect more countervailing measures adopted by these countries as invisible trade barriers. But I would say that even without TPP agreement, these are the challenges that Vietnamese enterprises have to deal with when they join in the international trading system.
Are Vietnamese businesses ready for the TPP, and how do their preparations affect the implementation of TPP in Vietnam?
I do not think Vietnam's enterprises are not ready yet. You probably know that China is now the leading exporter in apparel products to the US, but the market share has been depleting due to competition from Vietnam's export. We have become the second biggest apparel exporter to the US, and I believe that the market share is now increasing.
In conclusion, what does Vietnam have to do in order to take full advantage of all the opportunities that TPP will bring once it takes effect?
From the government perspective, we have to publish as soon as possible on the agreement text so that the society, the business can have a chance to study and make preparation for themselves to take advantage of the agreement. The government also have to change the officials, government officials, not only at the central level but also at the local level, in order for them to understand correctly about the TPP agreement so that they can implement effectively this agreement. And one more thing, I would say that the government has to also, as I mentioned above, has to amend and also issues new legal documents to make our legal system consistent with the commitment that we made in the TPP. From the business perspective, I will not repeat what has been recently said by many experts in media, something like seizing opportunity, cutting costs, or enhancing competitiveness. I think that each business can map out their own business plan in order to fully exploit the advantage coming from TPP agreement. Information is available. Ministry of Industry and Trade has just published the summary of agreement text, and I believe that the full text and schedules will be published very soon. So business can look at the text when they are published and make own assessment of the costs and benefits to them.
Thank you very much for spending your time with us in our show today.
Thank you.
TPP aimed to boost the economies of its 12 participating countries who will open their markets to one another, tighten labor and environmental standards across member nations. Among the potentially biggest winners of the trade deal, Vietnam has been striving to restructure its economy and strengthen its business community to be ready when the deal takes effect. We hope that you've gained some insights into what's at stake with the TPP for Vietnam. Many thanks for watching. And that wraps up this edition of Bizline. Thank you very much for being with us. Repeats of our show are all online at vtv4.vn or youtube.com/vtv4go from our team here in Hanoi. Until next time.